Large reserves of oil were found on Osage land in the late 19th century. The discovery made tribal members some of the richest people in the world, but the black gold lying beneath the reservation would prove to be a blessing and a curse.
The money, was just too big of a temptation.
A series of events following the discovery of oil created a dangerous environment and an atmosphere of mistrust. The tribe bought their land in 1870 in present-day Osage County, Oklahoma, the only Native Americans to purchase their own reservation.
We realized then that in order for us to sort of, have our own autonomous base, that we had to have clear title to the land.
Ownership became an issue when other settlers in Indian Territory pushed for statehood. The territory could not join the Union unless all property was allotted to individual members of the tribe, instead of being owned by the tribe as a whole. Having witnessed what other tribes experienced, the Osages resisted the move.
One of the reasons why they so, wholeheartedly resisted allotment was because you begin to see sort of this wholesale theft of Indian land, murder. You see that, with tribes in Oklahoma, the Southeast.
Finally, in 1906, they relented, and the government passed an Allotment Act. During negotiations, tribal leaders fought to ensure their people would see the proceeds from the oil discovered just a few years before. In the Allotment Act, each tribal member on the 1907 roll received an equal share of the land and wealth. But the 1907 rolls were, and still are, a hotly contested issue for the tribe.
When the Osages come here in 1870, there was 900 full-bloods. And by 1906, there was 2,229 people on the roll.
You look at censuses, but you look at, there's a lot of non-Osages that are claiming to be Osage. And they fought that. They fought that in 1906, they fought it before, and even up until 1930. They're still fighting it and saying, here's a list of people, these people are not Osage.
When oil production was at its highest in the 1920s, an annual share, or head right, was worth $13,000, according to the Osage Tribe's website. The influx of wealth brought a rush of shopkeepers, attorneys, and other businessmen.
It was difficult to deal with, because you're dealing with so much wealth and not being educated financially. You had like traders or shopkeepers, and everybody knew when payment was coming in, and so they would go to the store, but it may have been sometimes they would run up a large bill, or they would charge double. They had what you called Osage price, and Osage price was 2-3 times what the normal price would be.
To prevent tribal members from falling victims to swindlers, the government set up a guardianship program. Anyone who could not pass a competency test was appointed a guardian.
The Bureau of Indian Affairs would just, put people under guardianship. And, if you were half Osage, you were automatically considered incompetent. So, guardians kind of ruled around here.
Many times the guardians were just as underhanded as the people they were trying to shield the tribe from. According to the National Museum of the American Indian, by 1924, nearly 600 guardians had stolen $8 million in oil money from the Osages. Opportunists would also try to marry into the tribe in order to gain access to the Osage wealth.
The money, was just too big of a temptation, and so that's the sad part of it, is that the greed and all of those things that go along with that, brought in all these people. And they saw nothing wrong, with wanting to marry an Osage woman, have her killed, and then inherit, her estate.
Texas cattleman William K. Hale and his 4 nephews were among those who flocked to Osage County in hopes of striking it rich. Hale convinced one of his nephews, Ernest Burkhart, to marry a full-blooded Osage named Molly Kyle. Together, Hale, Burkhart, and several other men slowly dispensed of Kyle's relatives, leaving Molly Kyle with 4 head rights, including her own. But the plot extended beyond the Kyle family. There were multiple deaths across the reservation during the 1920s. Many tribal members died under suspicious circumstances.
My uncle always told me that he thought that my grandfather, his father, was murdered. And because he wasn't sick or anything, and he said when they would go there to his home, he was married again. And he told my dad and his brothers to not drink anything or eat anything in that house. And then he just, and he just died.
After local authorities failed to make any arrests, the Osages sought help from the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Actually, it was Nico Washitanka, he's my great-great-great-grandfather. He was the principal chief at the time. And, finally they, went to Washington, D.C., and they didn't leave. They said, Department of Justice, the Bureau, the Secretary of the Interior, we're dying, we're being killed, you all need to come down and investigate it, because there was this level of you couldn't trust anyone. Who do you turn to?
4 undercover agents examined the suspicious or violent deaths of 24 Osages between the years of 1921 and 1923. The FBI also interviewed more than 150 people, but much of what was reported was rumor or hearsay. After a 3-year investigation, only 3 cases were brought to trial: the deaths of Anna Brown, W.E. Smith, Rita Smith, and Nettie Brookshire, and Henry Roan. 5 men, including Hale and 2 of his nephews, were arrested. 4 of those men were charged with the crimes and sentenced to life in prison. Despite protests, Hale, Burkhart, and another accomplice were all paroled. The Osage tribe is still trying to recover their losses. Many head rights are still owned by non-Osages.
Some of them are fractionated, and some families have, full head rights, maybe even as much as 30%. But it's about 1/3 out of 2,229.
The tribe did recover some missing trust funds. In 2011, the federal government settled a long-standing lawsuit regarding the mismanagement of trust funds and non-trust assets. The United States government agreed to pay $380 million to the tribe. It was the largest tribal settlement in U.S. history.